amigos. So in the previous lesson, we talked about agility and how we drive agility for the business so it can respond rapidly to its customers and through our solutions, and of course how we also need to be agile in the way we deliver solutions or we deliver functionality, because the business is generally uncertain and changes often, or the requirements or the asks change often, and so we need to be on our toes in terms of being able to respond quickly to these changing requirements. Today we are going to dive a little deeper into some other concepts that have come to the fore to improve agile development or to improve the agility of the development process. But a story would actually help illustrate this more meaningfully, I think. So here's it. So there's a guy walking in the countryside and he comes across a huge construction site. He sees three people breaking stones, and he goes to the first one and asks him, "What are you doing?" And the first one responds with, "I'm breaking stones." He goes to the second one, asks him the same question, and the second one says, "I'm breaking stones to build a wall." And the third one, who he goes to, says, "I am building a cathedral." I guess no prizes for guessing which of these three masons is really going to be able to contribute far more to the project or far more to the building of this cathedral. Why? Because he has a bigger picture. He has a sense of the bigger picture. And because he has a sense of the bigger picture, the bigger vision, he would probably be more tuned into understanding what needs to be done when changes hit him or when changes hit the project. When structural changes are required, there's a better chance that he will be able to understand the ramifications of those structural changes and be able to respond more effectively and, of course, quickly. Building IT solutions is no different. We can't think of ourselves as cogs in the wheel. Not only do we need to understand business, as we've been doing in all the previous lessons, but we also, as we come closer down into the technology space, into the solution space, we need to understand what we've so far been thinking in terms of individual requirements, what's the context they sit in, who all are going to get value out of that specific kind of ask or functionality. And so we also need to have a bigger picture, because it will enable us to respond effectively, much as it would enable the third mason to respond quickly, effectively. And really, we would probably be in a better position to create business value, to kind of give a leadership perspective, to say, be critical in the way we solve problems, rather than just being, hands that hack code. The shift from a reductionist perspective within the agile development method, this reductionist perspective of only looking at individual requirements, to kind of getting a sense of a larger picture, is what is kind of implemented through composite structures and patterns called epics, stories. So you have epics, stories, and then requirements. And of course, once you get the sense of this big picture and not just the individual requirement, you can be far more effective in responding to a dynamic world that is out there. These composite structures, this epics, stories, and then of course the requirements, also help us in managing the development process more effectively, in being able to be more rapid in terms of our responses vis-a-vis how we are going to actually, or what we are going to deliver and when. Because, for example, if let's say a new situation arises where there's maybe a conference that is coming up, and for that conference we realize that what they really need is X and Y functionality, which we had not actually planned till much later. We can actually bring this up and work towards the conference, or work towards delivering it for the conference. So the things like this, the management process, the development process also becomes far more effective, and we are able to respond rapidly. Now, from an architectural perspective, what we as architects are really responsible for, or really going to be focused on, since our time is pretty expensive, right? And you don't have 1 million architects. You have a handful of architects in most organizations. So you have to use, as an architect, you have to use your time judiciously. So what we as architects are primarily going to be focused on is what we call architecturally significant requirements. These architecturally significant requirements are those that have a high impact on business, can create great value for the business, and also may be very costly or high risk. In fact, may even jeopardize the business to some extent. So considering some of these or all of these parameters, you will decide which requirement is something you need to focus on as an architect. Now, the connection between epics, stories, and requirements from an architecture perspective is that this architecturally significant requirement is what is the epic from a development or an agile perspective. So you have a lot of epics, or you may have a lot of epics depending on the size and scope of the project. But not all epics are going to be architecturally significant requirements. It is only the ones that have a high impact that are going to be what you as an architect, or what we as architects are going to be focused on. In this lesson, we are going to be focusing on architecturally significant requirements.